It's September 19th, 2024. The Los Angeles Dodgers are in Miami to face the Marlins with 10 games to go in the regular season, and their superstar leadoff hitter Shohei Ohtani is in the twilight of a dual-threat season for the ages. With 48 homers and 49 stolen bases, he enters this game 20 days, 5 homers, and 6 stolen bases removed from having already established a club unto himself when, back on August 30th, he became the only player to ever reach 43 of each in a season. Everything since is just adding cushions and pushing boundaries. He gets tonight's party in South Florida started with a double off the wall, so if he has designs on swiping bag number 50, it'll have to be the much tougher third base, which he subsequently indeed deftly does. And oh, by the way, that's also his 27th consecutive successful stolen base attempt as he eventually scores to put his team on top early. Next inning, he drives an RBI single to right, where broadcaster Joe Davis already seems incredulous by Ohtani's early fingerprints on the stat sheet.
He's got 2 hits, he's got a stolen base, he's got a run scored, he's got a run batted in.
Which at this point is absolutely adorable. He has no idea what's on deck. After another stolen base, his 28th in a row without getting caught, the next inning he goes opposite field for another double that finds its way to the wall to drive in 2 before his gambit for third comes up just short. Fast forward to the 6th inning when Ohtani blasts a moonshot that, 438 feet later, ties him atop the franchise single-season record for dingers, which stays tied for all of 1 inning. With 13 total bases, Ohtani's already got 2 more than anyone else has ever had in a multi-steal game. And wouldn't you know it, with 2 outs in the 9th, a Chris Taylor single means they can still get him 1 more crack at the dish. Take it away, Joe.
Oh my gosh! Shohei Ohtani! The greatest day in baseball history! This is not real life. He is not human.
After delivering that final TKO and the dust has settled, Ohtani emerges from this smackdown with 5 extra base hits, 17 total bases, 10 runs batted in, and 2 stolen bases. Let's give some context to those numbers, shall we? This episode of Scattered is brought to you by T-Mobile, the best 5G coverage in the game, home and away on America's largest 5G network. Learn more at T-Mobile.com/MLB. 9/19/24 Ohtani was one of just 17 all-time instances of a player driving in at least 10 runs in a game, and one of 7 all-time instances of a player racking up at least 17 total bases in a game. While 6'6" Scooter Gennett does join him on both lists, he didn't steal any bases. In fact, no one else who ever produced 10 RBI or 17 total bases in a game supplemented him with a stolen base. 9/19/24 Ohtani stole not 1, but 2 bases. Conversely, no one else who's ever stolen multiple bases in a game has driven in more than 7 runs, or, as mentioned earlier, topped 11 total bases. Those are massive gaps to the runner-up, and as for the 5 extra base hits, that's 2 more than anyone else had ever had in a multi-steal game across the previous 90 years. Which makes sense when you think about it logistically. Extra base hits and stolen bases do not go hand in hand when you first consider that generally about 35 to 40% of extra base hits carry 0 chance of a subsequent steal because the batter gets to leisurely make the 360-foot trek around the base path. Then as to the remainder, consider most steals are of second base, which by definition is impossible in the wake of an extra base hit, unlocking only third and home as theoretical possibilities. So swiping a single bag in a game with 5 extra base hits means either stealing third or home, or a 6th plate appearance reaching base and then stealing second. Ohtani, despite 60% of his extra base hits resulting in said leisurely, no chance of a steal trot, ultimately stole a base via both methods. There might be a few other individual player games in his ballpark, but I think 9/19/24 Ohtani possesses the most ammo to support it as the greatest in MLB history. And, as previously alluded to, that masterpiece was a tailor-made microcosm for his season at large. Before assessing the entirety of Shohei Ohtani's uniquely versatile dominance throughout the 2024 campaign, let's zero in for a bit on the 8-game stretch that was kicked off with that September 19th Classic in Miami and wrapped up on September 27th. In that 8-game period, Ohtani amassed 24 hits, half of which went for extra bases, that amounted to 48 total bases, while also stealing 8 bags. Going back over 90 years, only 2 other players had ever recorded 24 hits across an 8-game stretch. April 97 Kenny Lofton, who had only 5 go for extra bases, and June 19 Charlie Blackmon, who did display comparable pop, but did so almost entirely within the extremely cozy confines of Coors Field while stealing 0 bases. And in fact, while Blackmon in that time does represent one of the 6 other players who's ever had as many as 48 total bases across an 8-game stretch, all but May 58 Willie Mays joined Blackmon in not stealing even a single base, let alone 8. As for his peers over the same period of time, Ohtani recorded 78% more total bases than the runner-up, a disparity rarely seen throughout the annals of history across a comparable length of time, not to mention that no one else with more than a third as many total bases here having stolen more than a quarter as many bases. As for those previously referenced consecutive successful stolen base attempts, dating back to July 23rd, he finished up the regular season 36 for his last 36. Not only was he just the 4th player to pull that off within a single season, but he did it in a compressed enough time frame here that he stole 33% more bases than anyone else, let alone not having gotten caught once. Okay, now let's zoom out for that full season evaluation, starting with the overall damage he inflicted with his bat. Ohtani had 411 total bases in 2024, which is 35 more than any other Dodgers had in a season since their 1958 move to LA. And taking it back 75 years, it's a number that's been topped only 3 times, all in the steroid era. That should concisely convey the levels he reached as a hitter, so now let's isolate the overall damage 24 Ohtani inflicted with his legs on the base path. He attempted 63 stolen bases, succeeding on 59 while getting caught on 4. We've gotta shine a light on how ruthless those levels of volume and efficiency truly are. There's some years in the dead ball era without caught stealing data, but since the start of the live ball era in 1920, his ratio of nearly 15-1 clearly resides in his own stratosphere among the high volume crew. And among those with his level of efficiency, no one in over a century had exceeded even 50 attempts. Meanwhile, everyone else with at least 55 steals in a season was caught at least 7 times. Flipped around to look at those who'd been caught so rarely, no one in over 100 years except for 13 Jacoby Ellsbury successfully stole more than 47 bases, and he was still well shy of 24 Ohtani's mark. Alright, so we know he had one of the most special seasons ever with his bat, independent of also having one of the most special seasons ever with his legs. Man, what can't this guy do? It almost makes you wonder if there's somehow anything else on the baseball field Ohtani could possibly excel at. Anyway, with those 2 aspects of his game reaching the highest of highs even when each is taken a la carte, let's fuse them together and see just how gourmet the resulting meal is, starting with a snapshot of how he stacked up within the 2024 season. He had 19 more total bases than anyone else, with only a couple big leaguers surpassing 335, while his 59 steals were 18% more than anyone except Elly De La Cruz. Combine his 411 total bases with his 59 stolen bases, in essence pretending stolen bases count as total bases, and the resulting number of 470 is nothing short of mind-boggling. When 97 Larry Walker had 442, it seemed a Herculean feat, a number basically no one had even approached for decades, and that basically no one would come all that close to approaching for decades thereafter. Then in 2023, Ronald Acuna Jr. somehow comfortably topped 97 Walker before the very next year Shohei comfortably topped Acuna. 24 Ohtani's output here isn't just significantly higher than anyone in over a century, but many years no big leaguer came within 100 of his mark. And even including archaic days of yore, it's only been bested by 1921 Babe Ruth. If we also account for walks and hit by pitches to form a metric I've made up called bases conquered, 24 Ohtani's total of 557 hadn't been topped by anyone except 01 Barry Bonds since the 1920s. Or in other words, it's a higher total than anyone whose head didn't mysteriously triple in size from a few years earlier, since decades before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. We'll wrap it up with a look at his oft-cited combination of homers and steals. We know all about how he stacks up with his thievery on the base paths, but also having finished up with 54 dingers, that was good for 23% more than anyone else in MLB except Aaron Judge. 59 and 54 when even 43 and 43 has otherwise remained untouched. Which, speaking of such combos historically, there's stolen base data going back to 1886, so using that year as our starting point, here's said combo of every big leaguer in what is essentially every big league season. We're talking well over 100,000 player seasons represented here. It's pretty clear that by and large, the top home run hitters aren't demons on the base path, and that the top base stealers aren't crushing a ton of bombs. Up toward the northwest, you got the all-time single-season home run leaders, your steroid-era staples comprised of some Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa campaigns. And down toward the southeast, you got the all-time single-season stolen base leaders, such as 1887 stalwarts like Hugh Nickel and Arlie Latham, you know, guys that get talked about at every party, as well as folks like 82 Ricky Henderson and 74 Lou Brock. But zooming out, I think this chart gives some idea of just how remarkable an outlier 24 Ohtani is as to the numbers he reached in both. Also, as a brief aside, while constructing this bad boy, I noticed some peculiar omissions and gaps among seemingly ordinary potential combos. For example, there have been over 165 instances of a big leaguer hitting exactly 30 homers in a season, yet not one of them combined that with a stolen base total anywhere between 26 and 29. There have also been over 380 instances of a big leaguer hitting exactly 22 homers in a season, with not one of them occurring in conjunction with a stolen base total anywhere between 36 and 41. No one with exactly 39 homers finished with between 19 and 23 steals, and among those who matched exactly 35 dingers, 98 Sean Green stole 35 bags, while the next year Pudge Rodriguez stole 25. We're still waiting for someone to occupy this massive gulf in between them, and, while not being visually obvious here, these are some other combos that caught me by surprise for having no precedent on record through 2024. But I digress. While Shohei Ohtani in 2024 made an indelible mark in baseball lore by dominating at historic levels multiple elements of the game, excellence that goes far beyond just raw homer and stolen base totals, this makes it real easy to see how his journey to 59 and 54 captured the public's fascination every step of the way. There's one reasonable analog, as 23 Acuna stole 14 more bases while hitting 13 fewer homers, but considering that no one else with a 50-homer season stole even 25 bases, Ohtani clobbering 54 blasts while swiping nearly 2.5 times as many bags as did anyone else who'd hit even 50 is a unique level of distinction. Fitting for the ultimate one-of-a-kind player. Thanks for watching Secret Base. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you want to get a peek at even more stuff and see your name included alongside all these other very smart and good-looking people, subscribe to Secret Base on Patreon.